Această emisiune vă este oferită de Aqua Carpatica.
Good evening, I'm Roxana-Ioana Gabor-Iliescu. I didn't know how to say it in English, and today we will speak in English because our special guest for health in body and soul, it's the headmaster of the head teacher of the Modern Mystery School in Toronto, is a very special guest for us. Mr. Dave Lanyon, hello, and thank you for coming here in our studio at Channel 33 for the first time, I should say. I hope you will come back soon.
Well, thank you for inviting me. It's I'm excited. Yeah, first time. Yeah, first step of a journey of 1,000 steps. So why not?
First of all, I want to make it clear for our viewers that even though you know by now that we organize courses of Modern Mystery School here in Romania, this show won't be about Modern Mystery School. Everyone who wants to know more about it, they can search it in the website. And I'm very delighted that my guest today wanted also to be like this, because what I want from this show is to bring more light about what's going on around the world, and himself as being a head teacher on spiritual path and bringing hermetic wisdom all around the world. He has, let's say, a higher perspective, and he wants to share it with all the viewers of our show today. So also, if you are watching, please send us questions, and hoping that he will be back on our show, we will answer, to bring more light of what are we here to do, what can we do to help the progression, to help the evolution, to help live, all of us, to live what we all want to. Peace on earth, call it Shambhala, call it, I don't know, heaven on earth, as above, as below. You know, that thing that we all have in our heart, but we don't know how to put it on earth, how to manifest it. So from this point of view, thank you again for being here and for opening this conversation as a human being who is in service for the others. And I will start with a question about you. You have a history as a business person. You have a history as an martial art teacher, and now you're a spiritual teacher. How can they fit together?
That's a great question. I've had to ask myself that many times. The easiest one is martial arts, for sure, and spiritual progression were for thousands of years linked together. There was no way to separate those two things. If one were to live the martial lifestyle, one would have to study the spirituality of whatever that particular style was studying. So for me particularly, that bridge came when I was learning a lot of different styles, and I've studied many styles from many great teachers all over the world. But a lot of those styles sort of ended in our modern age at physicality. And, you know, punch harder, kick, move faster. But there was another aspect to me that wanted the spiritual side. And it seems like in our modern day, a lot of martial arts has lost that. It's just about the physical. So there was a history in martial arts for thousands of years of spirituality and martial arts being united. To know thyself is one thing. the business world, from where I came from, I would say that helped me reflect on the things that what would be called successful in a three-dimensional world is about. And it's interesting because success can be interpreted many different ways by many different people, and you'd have to define what success is. But what the business world brought to me was an understanding that just simple material success isn't enough. It's not fulfilling. It wasn't for me. It may be for other people, but it wasn't for me. So it kind of drove me, the being successful in business and having the material gain, it showed me where the voids were. And that void could only be filled by coming to understand myself better. So when I combined business with martial arts, it all ended up directing me to following a more spiritual way of living and seeking knowledge from it.
But the famous question, was the spiritual path looking for you, or you were looking for a spiritual path?
There's many ways you could think about that, but I think the spiritual path is always there for us. It doesn't necessarily seek us, but its doors are open, and it's always saying you're welcome anytime you wish to come. And it really, from my experience, is about our choice to do that. Our natural disposition in the world is to kind of follow the pack, to go the way of others. And unfortunately in this world, understanding ourselves as a spiritual being has been lost. So we tend to try and find ourselves in social normative behaviors. So we just want to fit in with the culture. We want to think like everyone else. And even though that seems to make it easy for us to fit into life, it doesn't leave us with a sense of satisfaction. Mm-hmm. So we really have to inside choose, and quite often choosing against normative thinking, against normal everyday sort of thought, to really invest in finding spirituality. And on that point, there's a lot of people in the world that would say that that the spirit comes from what you know. It's kind of like there's an internal knowing. And hermetically, that's true. We do have the answers inside, but the thing that we're often missing is the effort and the correct questions to ask of ourselves. So though the answers may be inside of us, if we don't put effort into seeking those answers, if we don't say, I want to know more, I really have to explore this, it won't just sort of be handed to us on a silver plate. So it's a lifestyle. To kind of harken back to what you said earlier, in martial arts, discipline is really, really important, or you don't succeed. And I would honestly say that in spirituality, discipline is really, really important, or you don't succeed. The two really come hand in hand.
Well, you just lifted up the bowl for me, because I would love to touch in this show a few aspects. One of the aspects will be, yes, health, because we have a belief that in order to be spiritual, we have to be poor. A second aspect will be, what about masculine and feminine? What it has to be a perfect masculine and a perfect feminine. And yes, you touched the subject, my favorite subject, let's say, why it has to be an effort. Why, if we are spiritual beings, we have to work on it, and we are just naturally, born, evolved. And also, why do we have to search for the spiritual path? Why in this world, even though there are so many courses, it's so much chaos? And at the end, I hope we can fit that in 40 minutes. What can we do?
Do my best.
So,
I'll do my best.
Let's start with what you just said, that we have to put some effort. Why do we have to put effort?
See, that's a great question. That's a really good question to start with, because in modern spirituality, most of it gets interpreted as something like a New Age thinking. And often in New Age thinking is there's these concepts that come out. If it's meant to be, it's meant to be. And if you're meant to have something, meant to know something, you will. And so effort is kind of irrelevant. It's just sort of supposed to happen. And in terms of what is the spiritual nature of the world, we have to understand that the spiritual nature of the world is for you to not understand who you are and what you are. And there's sort of an upside down thinking in a lot of modern spirituality that the world is so full of understanding of spirituality that it would just sort of present itself to you. And that's really not so. We require to have to dig underneath what's on top to see what's below. And as much as you stare at the ground all day, you won't know what's underneath it until you look underneath it. And so that's most of life is living on the surface of what life is. It's just the top layer. And you've got to put effort to get underneath it. You won't sort of magically find your way through it unless you say, no, I'm going to, in essence, in this example, get a shovel and dig and find out what's under there. So yeah, it does require effort. And if one were to say that to understand myself, to understand my divine essence, to understand who I am, all I have to do, for example, is read a book. Or watch this video, like watch me talking. These things can help, but in the end, ultimately, it's going to require you taking action and having direct experience to grow from it. And direct experience only comes when we're doing something. We're doing something about what it is we're seeking, which means effort is required. Now, you had mentioned, why does it have to be so hard? Well, the answer is it doesn't have to be. But we do, as humans, tend to make things harder than they have to be. The answers are often much more simplistic or much more easy to get to, but it's us as humans and our decisions and what we focus on as priorities that prevent us from seeing that the answer is there. And one simple example of that is, there's not a human I know, I teach all over the world, that doesn't know that love is the answer to a great many problems. Just learn to love other people, learn to love yourself, and that is an answer. And the answer is very simple, and yet in action, to actually apply what I just said is extremely complicated. And then even the understanding of the word love means many things. Like, I can love a dog, I can love my children, I can love ice cream. These are not all the same kind of love. They're different kinds of love. So we kind of have to explore these things so that we can have an understanding. If I may, one of the mistakes that I see people make in the world is the assumption that we're understanding each other when we say something. And we need to kind of pause and ask questions back before we come up with some sort of response, just some sort of autonomic answer to everything. You know what those guys should do and these people should do? And the answer is often, no, I don't know what those people should do. That's a good place to start. I don't know.
So what are you saying is that we should love each other, even if it's hard. Even I have to love somebody who is, I don't know, kicking my beep, who is giving me a hard time, who, I don't know, makes everything to take revenge on me. This is what you're saying?
Yeah, ultimately, yes, that's what I'm saying. But it has to start with you. If I know it's one of those things that's kind of illogical, but it works. You have to love yourself more. The more you love yourself, the more you'll find it easy to love other people and forgive them. It is a rejection of the self and our own flaws and our own weaknesses and our own strengths, rejecting our own strengths, that often lead us to dislike things about other people. The more we can understand ourselves and accept who we are as a human being, with all the pluses and minuses, the easier it is for us to look at other people and accept their pluses and minuses too. So the more we love ourselves, the easier it is to love another.
Yes, and going back to our books and also to the religion, isn't it contradictory between loving yourself and selfishness and not being empathetic to other human beings? What is the limit between loving myself and being narcissistic and being not caring about the others?
So you touched on a couple of things within there, but let's touch on how religion plays with this. Mm-hmm. Most religions, and of course I can't say all religions because you'd have to go through everyone individually, but most religions teach you that you are a lesser being and that only through certain actions, mm-hmm. adherences, will you be considered a valuable being. So right away you start off with, if we were to look at most Christianity, all different forms of Christianity, you are a sinner, born of sin, born in wrongness. And that's really not so from a Hermetic path. The Hermetic path says you are God, you are divine in your nature, you are deserved of all things. However, you have forgotten this. Now, in that you've touched on, okay, where does the ego come in? Well, the ego is the reflection in the dark mirror of who you are. And so people look at the reflection and they say, that's me. And you go, no, the thing that is putting that energy out that is bounced back, that's you. But that reflection is only a reflection. And if I look at myself in the dark waters of life, in a world that is not really, necessarily looking for the best for things, that is always in a state of chaos, the reflection will be a chaotic version of myself. It comes back as a chaotic version. And so I see and I say, oh yes, those religions were right, those people were right, I am not worthy of this. And so, or I'm so awesome, I don't have to change, I don't have to grow. And in that, one of the things that again comes into this is you'll see and you hear very modern social media and whatever, you're perfect the way you are. No, you're not actually perfect the way you are. The only perfection hermetically that one finds is in the art of working to perfect thyself. So you can only be perfect in a perfect state if you are working on being in a perfect state. And the minute you stop and say, I've arrived at the state of perfection, I'm no longer perfect anymore. Mm-hmm. So within that understanding means that one must always have humility that you're not perfect, but you're working on being perfect. And so built into that understanding hermetically is one has to have humility, and humility tends to push the ego aside and move the ego and the personality to the side so one can actually grow towards their own divine self.
Yes, that's a different perspective. As I read what Jesus said, Jesus never said that we are sinners and we have to see ourselves as sinners, but yes, to work on ourselves, to grow, that we can be as he was and even higher. And that really was, wow, how can I be like Jesus Christ? How, I'm just a human, he was divine. What was he saying actually? He
ultimately was saying, and they crucified him for it, is that he is God and we are God. And that's something that is a hermetic truth for us, is that we are God. Individually and collectively, we are God. And so from a hermetic tradition, God is not an outside force that is telling us what to do, judging us, looking down at us, making all the shots. We take the responsibility onto ourselves. We are God. And so if you want to say God is doing that, you have to look and say, I am doing that. Those two come together. And if one embraces their divinity and truly embodies that state, then one becomes more powerful than anything you could imagine. You become greater than God itself. But it's kind of funny because it's a bit of an oxymoron, because to become greater than God when you're God makes you more godly, not anything less. And Jesus was clear on this. Like, I'm going to challenge some people's belief systems, and this may, and forgive me if it bothers you. It's good that you think about these things. If it does bother you, maybe give you a different way to look at things. But Jesus did not subscribe to a religion. He came from Judaism and he gave that up, and he was not Christian. Christianity came after him, and it was something that he never requested be done. He studied the Hermetic life, and most of his things that he was saying were from a Hermetic understanding.
You
And he
keep
was teaching from
mentioning the Hermetic. Please, just say a few words. What does it mean, Hermetic understanding, Hermetic teachings?
A real simple version of it is to understand God without human influence. So no personality, no social norms, no other construct that comes from the mind of a human. This is just the light of God as it is. And understanding that is a study that one takes in a lifetime. You live a Hermetic lifestyle. And for sure, Jesus was living a Hermetic lifestyle. He understood himself to be God, as we are all God and goddesses, and he lived in accordance with what he wanted God to be. So we could bring in a little bit of Gandhi here when he said, be the change you want to see in the world. That's what he was talking about. So one of the things I would say, if someone were in front of me, perhaps they were a student or something, and they were talking about God, and they were asking, why doesn't God do this and why doesn't God do that? The first thing someone hermetically would say is, why aren't you doing it? You're God. So God will only behave in accordance to you because you are God. So if God is not answering your prayers, I would say, how many prayers are you answering for other people yourself? If God is not helping you, how many people are you helping? Are you helping yourself? Are you helping others? You know, these are the kind of principles that you come from hermetically. And for me, they work fantastically, and it changes your life if you can understand this.
Now it brings me to the other question. You know, going to courses and being in that enlightened space and doing meditation and feeling that divine inspiration, it's amazing. And then you come home to your children, to your invoices, to I just received a fine from our beloved state, which hasn't, things like that. And I know you're happily married, you have a kid. Do they push your buttons? Do your colleagues push your buttons? How do you apply everything that you teach in your daily life? Is it possible?
No, very possible. But easy? No. It would be a great question if I had my wife on here. You should ask her, does he push your buttons?
That's my next interview.
Exactly. Don't tell my secrets. Don't tell my secrets, dear. Well, it is true. Our family and our closest friends will be able to push our buttons the easiest. So to make it simple, again, we go back to hermetics. But hermetically speaking, anything that you derive power from is also the place where you'll find your greatest weakness. So if I get strength from this, you also get weakness from it. So I get strength from my family, which means my family has power to influence me to a great degree. And if they were to be a negative state, they could influence me into the negative. But if you live the Hermetic lifestyle, and so much is about integrity, so much, I mean, in what I teach and the teachers that I have around me, one of the things we talk about all the time is you must live in integrity. You must, if you say to a human being, another human being, that a good thing to do is this, and you yourself won't do it, you are out of integrity. And I call people on that, and I tell them, you cannot teach out of integrity. And to live a life in heaven, in the light, on earth, one must live in integrity. So you better walk your talk and talk your talk. You have to do that. And so every day of my life, I apply that. And my wife, walking the path, and a powerhouse, standing as an equal partner, does the same thing. And when you have, for sure, when you have two people in life, a couple together, and they both equally commit to doing the best they can at all times, to always moving towards the light, guess what happens? The light grows. And the things, the regular struggles that other people have, they sort of dissipate. You'll always have struggles, but your ability to overcome them or to solve them is just becoming more fluid. You move through moments more easily. There's less emotional and mental and sort of physical cost to getting through something that someone who doesn't understand this stuff they pay a big price. And sometimes they get stuck in paying that price. And of course, for our son, I mean, we're able to do our absolute best that we can do to hand that down to him too, and to give him different perspectives on life when he's not teaching us, of course.
Now, officially, I have to apologize in front of you and your wife, because I was looking very, very carefully at you two in Toronto, because I was looking for an answer. How can a couple survive and actually thrive when the woman is as strong as the man? And this brings me to the other question. How can it be today, divine masculine, divine feminine, strong woman, strong man together? How can you flow together? How can you dance together? I don't know. What should be like the perfect dance?
Well, there's a few ways I can answer that, but it does go back to one very core piece of what so many people are missing in the world, and that is that we have not put enough effort in to know thyself. So you really, you have to get to know yourself. And if you have two people that know themselves, their own self individually, then when you know yourself, you know what's around you also. You have a clear reflective surface of what is so and what is not so. Discernment rises dramatically. And so my wife knows herself very well, I know myself very well, and therefore we can flow together. Now in that, she embraces the divine feminine, and I do my best to embrace the divine masculine as best I can. And her divine feminine inspires my masculine, and I should hope that my masculine would hopefully inspire her divine feminine. We in terms of our traditions, women are the stronger of the two by far. They are, there's an old saying, women appear to be soft on the outside yet are very strong on the inside, and men appear to be strong on the outside yet are very soft on the inside. And I would say there's a lot of truth to at least the inner part of that women are the stronger of the two. And women, honestly, are the ones that will set the tone for the man. What is acceptable to the woman, whatever parameters are out there, the man will roam in that area. The thing is, how do you want your relationship to grow? And since most people don't know themselves, they put in constructs that come from an illusion. And then as they grow, the illusion doesn't hold together because it's not reality, and things fall apart. And so you kind of have to get to, and it's the hardest thing for people to, you have to get real about who you are and about what you want in life. And you have to speak to that other person with as much clarity and truth as you understand it. Truth being that you may not know the absolute truth, but it's the truth as you understand it. And if two people can do that, you can create just about anything on earth. And you need to really make space. My wife is great at making space for me to be a guy. Just be a guy. She, don't
what do you
judge men
mean?
for being.
What do you practically mean? Because the challenge that we have, no, I don't think not only in Romania, is that more and more women, they are powerful and they can do most everything. And then, okay, what is he supposed to do? Because he's doing nothing. So what's his purpose? Sorry for being very honest, but that's the perspective.
I'm happy. It's a great question. In our traditions, it is the role of the man is in his actions is to worship the goddess, and the role of the goddess is to serve the world. So what that means is that men find purpose. And I'm talking particularly about straight men, but it doesn't matter, divine masculine, feminine. You'll find this in gay couples and lesbians. It doesn't matter. You'll find it in every mix. It's the same energetic philosophy. The man finds purpose when he finds value to the woman. If he has a value to the woman, then he has a purpose. So we would say that the woman is born with the crown on her head. She is born a queen, but a man cannot be a king until a queen decides, I will grant you the privilege to be the king for me. And then when she grants him that privilege, she has to make room for him to be the king. Or as my father would say, you know, I get to be the boss because your mom said I could be. So, but the problem in there is that there are things, and this is really important, and again, I know it's going to push some people's buttons, but there's this concept in modern thinking that a woman can do anything a man can do, and that's abhorrently wrong. And it's very easy to prove that wrong because a man can't do everything a man can do. No man is interchangeable with other men. We all have our limitations. So to say what you're saying in that thinking is that a woman is interchangeable with all men, and that's simply not true. In my travels, I've never met a man in the world who anywhere, no matter what his disposition is, who says we don't need women in the world. But I have unfortunately met a bunch of women who think men are disposable things, unnecessary. And God is male and female, so we need each other. So a huge part of growth is the fact that men and women in the world in general have to say, we do need each other. Mm-hmm. And we do need men who think like this, and we do need women who think like that. And it's okay. It's okay that we don't always understand each other. It's okay that men act like this sometimes and women act like that, as long as no one is being personally attacked. Be yourself. You know, and the problem we're seeing today is that men are being, more so than women, men are being attacked just for being men. Although I say that, and I see a lot of women being attacked by other women for being women.
Yes, you are so true. In the latest courses that we have done, we discovered that with humility, that we as women, we are quite cruel to each other, and we leave no space for men, no space to breathe, no space to act. And I personally, with the community that I lead, we are there. We realize that we have no idea what to do next. But at least we are here, acknowledging, oh my God, we have done that. So maybe some other time we give more time only to this, because for me it would be a great honor, and maybe also to inviting your wife. I want to reach also the other subject, which is very delicate. I don't know if only in Romania, but here in special. And I'm talking about being spiritual versus being rich. It is a versus. Somehow taken from religion, taken from, I don't know, because it's easier like that. You know, if I'm spiritual, I don't have to be rich. But it's also that if you are rich, you are mean, you are, evil is rich. Can you tell me something about that? How can you be rich and spiritual in the same time?
Yeah, I mean, it's another great sort of modernized thinking that, well, maybe it's not even modernized, it's been around a long time, that if one has wealth, one is inherently a bad person and in no way, shape, or form could want the world to be a better place. That is categorically and irrefutably false. One can be rich and mean, but most of the wealthy people I've met in this world are attempting to do better with wealth than anything else. They're not attempting to do evil. And that entire concept is highly flawed, because who doesn't want the world to be a better place? Everybody does. But right now in our world, money is the greatest influencer for a change on planet Earth. If you have enough money, there's very little you can affect. So then the concept is that, okay, we got to take the money and give it to the good people, who the only way they could be good is they'd have to be poor, because then that's the spiritual people. And then those people would use the money, but oh no, then they would be the rich people. So that would make them evil, right? No, money from a Hermetic perspective is one thing. It is an amplifier that allows you to express that which is inside of you more greatly into physical existence. So if you have money...
Can you say that again, please?
Yeah, sure. Money...
I think we need to hear it very slowly.
No problem. Money is an amplifier that allows you to more easily express that which is inside of you into physical existence. So whatever you hold inside of you, the positive and the negative, will be expressed when you have enough money. You will express that, and it will become very easy for everyone to see what that is. For example, if I love artwork and I have no money and I can't buy artwork, but when I get rich, I can buy lots of artwork, guess what I do? I buy lots of artwork, I put it on walls and everywhere, and then someone sees it and they go, oh, you must love artwork. It's quite obvious, it's very physical. If I love cars, clothes, jewelry, you name it. So that it's not money that is evil. It is the nature of the person using it, whether that money serves good or bad. So we as people need to focus on using all of our money, no matter where we are, whether we consider ourselves poor, rich, whatever, to do good in the world. But the first person you do good for is yourself, which sounds very selfish. But in securing your foundation, you then have the strength to help others. In other words, you can't be a lifeguard to swim and save people in the ocean if you drowned yourself. So establish the foundation of your own life, and then you can build out and help people. And by the way, you can help people at a much greater, more amplified rate if you have money. So we should not fear money. The fear that people have around money is they fear themselves and what they'll do with it. But if you know yourself and you can hold to a path of good, you'll do good with money. Don't be afraid, ever, to have money. Use it for good. And if I might add one more thing to that, in one of our teachings, I would say that accumulate no money without purpose. That prevents greed from happening. So if you have money, it needs to have a purpose, just like a human being. What am I doing with this? So don't just pile up money everywhere in a bank account. It has purpose. I'm doing that because I'm going to, whatever, buy a house. Great. Then it has a purpose. But just having money sitting there, it needs to move. So it's like energy reaching out into the world. So take it and give it purpose in the light, and the world will change.
So what I'm hearing is just that money are mirrors, like children are mirrors. I always said, well, be afraid of having kids if you don't want to see yourself, because you'll definitely see everything about yourself with a kid. Imagine with 3. Okay, and continuing on this subject. I was very often not asked, because I heard, voices behind me, that my courses are one of the most expensive in Romania. And I've heard, like, oh, you receive this knowledge from God. Why is it not for free? Why are they so expensive? Can you tell me why my courses are so expensive? I'm not talking about the Modern Mystery School, but yeah, I'm giving myself for example.
Yeah, why are your courses so expensive? I want some. No, you know what that comes from? It's kind of funny because what's a big sport in Romania? What's your big sport?
Soccer. Yeah, football.
Soccer.
Yeah.
Okay, and your people that play football at a professional league, do you pay them a lot of money?
Yes.
Why? They're just entertaining you. Nobody complains about that.
No.
You see, there's this concept that knowledge of God is meant to be, free of money, free of effort, free of exchange. And the answer is why? Whoever told you that? Why is the concept that God is sitting there, but you have to work hard to get there? And in doing that, you have to do something. You have to exchange. You have to put energy and effort out. You have to show, I want this. And in that, by the way, is something that people are always missing, and that is the respect of that which they are learning and from whom they are learning it. So that person, yourself, has spent a lot of time studying, working, spending your own money, spending hours, doing many things to learn what it is you're teaching. And if we went to university, nobody would say that you're charging me to learn economics or medicine or anything else. You would say, well, of course, the teacher worked really hard and it costs money to teach. But in spirituality, there's this sort of false story that that effort doesn't matter. So my thing would be this. If you don't want to pay for something, don't. That's number one. Number two, if you can get it for free, go get it. That's what free gets you. So if it was meant for you to simply understand, then just go sit on your couch and understand it. But if it requires effort and it requires, exchange in the world, then you have to do something about that. And that means putting something out. That means money, effort, time, whatever it might be. It means many things. But free is what you get, and no effort when you do nothing. And I would challenge that most people do not grow from that state, which means you have to do this other thing. And if you're really resentful of that, I once had a student say to me, why should they pay for what I'm teaching? Mm-hmm. And I said, you don't have to pay me. You can go to the mountaintops that I went to, go to the temples and go study in Japan with my teachers, with Gudni Gunnarsson and others. You can travel all over the world with shamans, and I'm sure all of that will be free and they'll all teach you for free. But what I can tell you is none of my knowledge came for free and without huge effort and challenges, because that's the way it is. But the hardest things create the greatest rewards, for sure.
True. And well, I thought it will be a long show, but we only have 4 minutes left. And I don't want to end this first show together, I hope, without asking you, 2022, we see a lot of chaos around. We have a lot of spiritual courses, and though a lot of, tension and hate in the social media, why and what can we do? What is something that we could do to help balance all this?
Okay, so a couple things. One is the reason you're seeing so much chaos is because as light comes in, we see the shadow more easily. So you turn on the light and you see the shadow. So people suddenly now in the world can see all the negativity. It's really present. It wasn't hidden and sort of manipulative. It's right in your face now. And so that's one thing. And so everyone's in a bit of these last few years, they're like they're pulling their hair out and screaming, oh my God, the world's terrible. And it's like, well, we kind of knew it was. It's just that you've become aware of how bad it is. So that's one thing. But the good that comes from that is through awareness, we then can make a choice to do differently. And so we're in these transitional years where the awareness of the negativity and what's really wrong in the world is being presented to us. And we have to make this other choice. For your personal life, it can really be this simple. Do acts of good. Do acts of kindness every day. Make it an effort. And count the things that you're happy about. The things that bring you joy, the things that you are grateful in your life. If you come from that place, life will be easier. And I'm not going to tell you that the world is going to be better in 2022. It's not. It's going to get tough. But you don't have to be as influenced by it. You can definitely build shelter in the light through gratitude for what you have and through always expressing kindness and compassion to yourself and others. It will get easier. It will get easier if you do that.
Wow. Thank you so very much. I heard, well, our title that was Paradise or Apocalypse, that it should be kind of, now that it's light, well, it can look like apocalypse, but we are going towards paradise. Am I correct?
Yeah,
okay.
100%. If I could put it to you this way, you've been living in apocalypse. You just became aware of it. That's all. It's like, oh, now we can choose differently.
Okay, and all we have to do is to be good, to live in love, in health, in wealth, and in happiness, correct?
Learn to know thyself, and almost all of those other things will flow from it. Learn to know who you really are as a being, not a personality.
Should be simple. Okay, I wish upon a star that our next interview will be here in our studio in Channel 33, and that we will have the honor to have you here in Romania. Thank you so very much for this opportunity and for all the messages that you gave to the world. Thank you so much, Mr. Dave Lanyon, and see you soon.
My pleasure. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Take care.
And thank you for watching us, and I want to thank my colleagues for all the support and the colleagues from Toronto for the technical support. And I really wish from you some feedbacks. What have you felt? Even what buttons were pushed? What questions are arising right now? Just write to us on our Channel 33 Facebook page, and I don't know, let's continue to do good. Thank you so very much for watching. See you next time.
Această emisiune v-a fost oferită de Aqua Carpatica.